Greetings. My name is Sarah Garza. I am the Director of Environmental Planning and Compliance for the Port of Corpus Christi. My department at the Port is responsible for implementation of our environmental policy and ensuring that operations in the port are in compliance with the local, state, and federal rules and regulations. However, at the Port of Corpus Christi, we don't stop at compliance. We strive to be an environmental leader while also being the energy port of the Americas. Environmental leadership is proactive stewardship, management, and decision-making. Environmental stewardship has been a cornerstone for the Port of Corpus Christi for several decades. With the lifting of the export ban in December 2015, the port and the Coastal Bend region have experienced exponential growth that has created over 98,000 jobs and over $54 billion in new investments. This rapid growth has brought much needed prosperity for our citizens, but also highlighted the need for a robust environmental action plan. As most of you know, we are the energy port of the Americas and the nation's largest crude exporter. Analysts predict that the Port of Corpus Christi will retain over 50% of the market share in terms of crude exports. A phenomenal achievement in less than 5 years. Under the leadership of our commission and our CEO, Sean Strawbridge, we have become more progressive from an environmental perspective as we look towards the future to ensure that our growth has minimal impact on our beaches, on fishing, on habitat, and also keeping our air clean and water clean. The Port of Corpus Christi environmental leadership is largely sustained through ISO 14001 and Green Marine certifications. The ISO 14001 certification has been maintained since 2007, and our most recent third-party audit resulted in no findings or potential opportunities for improvement. This reflects the port's diligence in maintaining a robust and proactive program. The Green Marine certification was first accomplished in 2016, and the port is steadily working towards achieving level 5, the highest level in each program area, by 2023. Our proactive efforts resulted in the designation of 1,600 acres of submerged property for the creation of habitat. This includes completing the survey of the entire area to identify the extent and condition of the existing habitat. Additionally, the port has undertaken a stormwater master planning effort of the Inner Harbor and Rincon areas, which include over 8,000 acres and 340 miles of storm drainage conveyance systems. The project is expected to be completed later this year and will inform infrastructure development to improve water quality and appropriately manage stormwater runoff to prevent flooding. A trash skimming device is a tool that the port staff have long pursued to address trash in a bottleneck area called the Salt Flats Ditch, where trash runs off from an urbanized area into the ship channel. In the summer of 2020, EPA awarded the port a grant for $451,000 to make that happen. The port will also use the collection of trash in this area in partnership with the Texas State Aquarium and other local environmental groups to raise awareness and promote personal responsibility for trash. As part of our commitment to ensure the port remains an environmental leader and steward in our region, our CEO created the position of Chief Strategy Officer, appointing Mr. Jeff Pollock to take on that role. Environmental planning and compliance has been brought under this executive position to give much needed support and advocacy around environmental initiatives. Jeff's background in coastal ecology provides the needed technical leadership for environmental initiatives. Executive level support is only one component. You also need a solid and passionate team to identify and progress these environmental strategies. I am fortunate to have that in a team. We have 10 individuals that have biological, military, industrial, engineering, and geological backgrounds. The range of expertise on the team is as broad as it is diverse. Another area of commitment is our contributions to other environmental organizations in our community that also proactively improve the environment. The Port provides significant funding and support to organizations such as the Coastal Bend Bays and Estuaries Program and the Texas A&M Corpus Christi Pollution Prevention Partnership. In 2020, the Port Commission approved a $2.5 million contribution to the Texas State Aquarium for their planned wildlife rescue center. The Port has also been involved in the transformation and succession planning for the great work that Gretchen Arnold has done through the Coastal Bend Air Quality Partnership. Cargo movement at the Port of Corpus Christi occurs through a variety of modalities. The Port maintains this transportation infrastructure to promote efficient and safe cargo movements. In addition, our customers and tenants make significant investments in facilities along the ship channel. The Port responds to all spills, regardless of the size, to ensure a prompt cleanup to pre-existing conditions. Deed recording property for commercial industrial land use is a very common practice when it comes to spill cleanup. However, at the Port of Corpus Christi, it is a last resort, working instead to completely remediate the impacts. There are some situations where this is cost prohibitive, and only after ensuring all measures to resolve the spill impacts have been exhausted by the responsible party do we consider deed recording and leaving contamination in place. As a landlord port, we use the terms of our lease agreements with our tenants to establish strict standards for compliance. And we have the option to revisit the lease every 5 years to keep up with changes in environmental regulations. The Port also has a robust tenant audit program, and we are using GIS technology for future land use and commercial planning. This allows consideration for environmental landscape and decision making. For instance, the Texas State Aquarium draws water from the ship channel, and using available technology will help to ensure compatible adjacent development. The commitment from our customers to also be environmentally responsible is a big part of our success to be an environmental leader. Our customers meet with us to discuss our environmental initiatives and provide feedback. They also make their own individual commitments that go beyond regulations. Attainment of air quality in Corpus Christi is largely attributed to our industry partners who took on voluntary actions, including implementation of extensive air monitoring networks. COVID-19 has had an impact on cargo operations, including an overall 13% drop in tonnage and revenues that occurred in the second quarter of 2020. In spite of this, it was still a benchmark year compared to prior years. During this time, many employees took advantage of remote work to participate in additional virtual training and conduct virtual outreach to continue to reinforce what was already a high level of environmental awareness among our employees. Many have also seized opportunities during this time of working from home to reduce their personal footprint, creating vegetable gardens and projects that reuse materials instead of throwing them in the trash. The Port has continued to provide uninterrupted operating conditions on all levels. Environmental permitting efforts for development projects for both crude exports and establishing a sustainable long-term water supply have continued with minimal interruptions. Much of this has been possible due to the efforts by the state and federal agencies to also adjust to modified working situations. Even during the times of the pandemic, new facilities in the Port were coming online. The Corpus Christi Ship Channel Improvement Project to deepen the entire channel to 54 feet has continued. Earlier in the year, contract number 1 was completed, which deepened the stretch of the channel from the Gulf of Mexico to Harbor Island to 54 feet depth. A 54-foot channel will allow Suezmax vessels to traverse the ship channel fully loaded. The proposed channel deepening project, which will deepen the stretch of the channel from the Gulf of Mexico to Harbor Island to 75 feet, will allow VLCCs to traverse the outer reach of the ship channel fully loaded. Fully loaded vessels optimize the cargo operations and maximize shipping efficiencies by reducing the number of vessel trips and associated ship channel congestion. From an environmental perspective, this is important for air quality. The Port of Corpus Christi is able to see the specific impact through the regularly completed emission inventories. The last one completed was in 2017, and the 2020 emission inventory is being kicked off a little bit later this year. The 2017 emission inventory showed a significant decline in emissions. Over 50% for PM emissions, over 28% for volatile organic compounds, and a 90% reduction in sulfur emissions. This is all a result of the International Maritime Organization regulations for the shipping industry, which went into effect. These rules mandated that fuel oils used in vessels have a sulfur content of less than 0.5%. Even prior to that going into effect, the Port of Corpus Christi, along with many other U.S. ports, lobbied for an emission control area, or ECA, which would ensure that regulations were evenly applied across our coastlines, not just in areas that were in non-attainment. This ensures that up and down the coast, low sulfur content fuel is utilized, also reducing emissions in our region, which is still in attainment. In 2019, the Corps of Engineers published a notice advising the public of the development of an environmental impact statement, or an EIS, for our proposed channel deepening project. Since that time, the Port of Corpus Christi provided volumes of data for the Corps to begin drafting the EIS. At this point, the draft EIS is well underway and anticipated to be available to the public in the late spring. Additional fieldwork to provide further details to the project is expected to occur in mid-January, and modeling efforts continue to be developed and inform the project. It is important to our economy for the Port of Corpus Christi to stay ahead of these developments. Planning these large-scale projects early also provides the opportunity to plan the environmental benefits of the project. This project will generate a significant volume of dredge material, clean dredge material that can be reused beneficially to create habitat, stabilize shorelines, and build up resilient coastlines. This project will create hundreds of acres of habitat and stabilize shorelines. Another area that the Port is working proactively is in our commitment to provide a water supply solution to our region that is drought resistant. In 2017, the Port Commission, concerned that the area is due for another severe drought, directed Port staff to consider the best locations for desal and pursue the long lead permits. Fast forward to 2020, and we are in stage 1 of a drought with combined lake level of less than 50%. As the Commission requested, Port staff identified port property at Harbor Island and La Quinta as optimal locations based on existing utility and electric infrastructure and proximity to deep water. Then we conducted modeling to fully evaluate these locations. The additional modeling that was contracted by the Port demonstrated that Harbor Island is the only location in the Corpus Christi Bay system where a discharge of brine from a desal plant would not increase background salinities in the bay system. With that, staff pursued the discharge permit with the TCEQ. TCEQ recommended a draft permit to the TCEQ commissioners in the fall of 2019, who then recommended a contested case hearing to more closely review specific claims by Port Aransas Conservancy and several individuals that live or have homes in Port Aransas. The contested case hearing for the desal discharge permit at Harbor Island began in July 2020, and the decision from the administrative law judges is expected no later than February 5th, 2021. The intake structure was originally planned off Harbor Island. However, it became clear that even with the advancements in intake technology, the impacts couldn't be mitigated to a point that would make us comfortable on the intake location. On a recommendation by Port staff in May 2020, the Port Commission approved a resolution to locate the intake structure for Harbor Island in the Gulf of Mexico. This decision ensures that the project is sustainable on all fronts. The modeling study identifying Harbor Island as the best location also informed our decision to investigate alternative brine management strategies for the proposed desalination plant at La Quinta. In the early spring, staff anticipates having the results of feasibility studies that can then be provided to TCEQ to develop a draft permit that limits the discharge of brine. Finally, the redevelopment of Harbor Island to a modern liquid bulk export terminal is still awaiting a permit decision from the Corps of Engineers. The proposed development of the facility includes best management practices to limit short-term impacts to the environment from construction. The deed recorded hotspots of contamination that remained from the prior terminal operator were excavated under the oversight of the Railroad Commission and were properly disposed of. This was intentionally performed ahead of the construction of the new facility to reduce the potential impacts of exposure during earthwork. A detailed groundwater management plan has also been developed for construction through information that was obtained from pilot studies that were conducted during the hotspot excavation activities. This provides real-time information for the development of the groundwater plan. Harbor Island and other planned energy export infrastructure projects are necessary to support newly completed pipeline capacity, which connects Corpus Christi to the Permian Basin. Most recently, Blue Water Texas Terminals announced its project to construct 2 single-point mooring buoys located approximately 21 nautical miles from the entrance of the Corpus Christi ship channel. This project is a partnership between Texas-based Phillips 66, Trafigura Group, and the Port of Corpus Christi. Phillips 66 has approximately 50 years of experience of safe SPM buoy operations off the coast of England and will bring that expertise to South Texas. Projects such as this one that provide efficient operations, fully loaded VLCCs, that also take into consideration safety and environment are the type of projects that the Port of Corpus Christi supports and that we believe will drive the nation's economic recovery. Looking ahead to this year, the Port is continuing its strategic, proactive stewardship initiatives. We have partnered with Ducks Unlimited on a grant opportunity to master plan beneficial reuse of dredge material in order to have fully designed and permitted projects in the pipeline when dredge material becomes available. These projects are typically shoreline restoration and nourishment and habitat creation. The Port is also pursuing a pilot study for controlling hoteling emissions for ships at berth. Hoteling emissions are the emissions that result from vessels running auxiliary engines that provide power for the living quarters on ship. So even though a vessel is docked and not moving, it is unable to shut down all of its engine and as a result still generates a significant air quality impact. The pilot study will provide a review of available technology to capture these emissions, which will inform our planned redevelopment and expansion project at the Avery Point Terminal, which is the busiest port-owned public dock facility. In addition, the Port has approved a Clean Fleet program and will begin implementation in this year with the turnover of our administration vehicles from gasoline powered to hybrid electric. The entire Port fleet is anticipated to be turned over by 2023. The Port of Corpus Christi operations are sustained through purchase of green energy sources, and the Port of Corpus Christi is home to significant wind cargoes supporting the renewable energy industry. The Port has also begun planning efforts for LNG bunkering to further reduce emissions from port operations. Environmental leadership is something to which we remain steadfastly committed. The Port of Corpus Christi team is passionate and committed to that pursuit, from the executive staff to the employees in the field doing the work and everyone in between. This will include continual development of information through modeling and studies and actual projects that significantly reduce our environmental footprint. While the Port of Corpus Christi continues to push forward as the energy port of the Americas, we also are striving to become the model for moving America's energy in the most efficient and sustainable manner. Thank you very much and Happy New Year.